When a fund manager is looking at launching a fund, before he even considers that, they should be looking at the distribution strategy. And what I mean by that is who, where, when, and how. The who is very simple. It's the target market. Who is selling it to? Is it retail? Is it institutional? Is it private banks? Is it family offices? Because that will dictate many aspects of what the strategy, what the investment strategy will be. And then you've also got to look at the geography, because equally you have some constraints there. The different family offices may be working differently in Germany than, say, the UK or South America, and you'll have to have different regulatory understandings of those markets. So that's critical. And then you've got to look at when, and that's all about pre-marketing, engaging interest. And one of the things that we do is we work with a lot of TPMs, third-party marketers, across the globe to try and gauge that interest. Because without that interest, your launch will be a damp squib. And it's really important to make sure you get that pre-marketing right. And then you've got to work out how you're going to do it. And that's either going to be direct, is that going to be an in-house team you have, or you're going to go out to an external third-party marketer. Once you've worked those four things out, then you've got a distribution strategy. But then you've got to think about how you can develop that. And what I call the 4 Ps, which is people, price, pitch, and plumbing. And the people is really, really important, because if you have a fund manager who needs to be trained, and not everybody is perfectly in front of a camera or in front of a client, you need to spend time training those managers. You got to make sure that they're articulate, they understand the strategy they're talking about. Hopefully the fund managers actually develop that investment strategy. And then you've got to think about the availability of those people, because you can't just do it from behind your desk. You've got to go out there and meet potential investors and potential fund selectors. So their availability is really important, particularly if you're coming in from overseas to the European market, or going from the European market to South America or Southeast Asia. So that's really important. The other thing to consider is the price, because there's significant squeeze on margins, and has been for a number of years now. The old glory days of the 2 and 20 model, I'm afraid, is dead. Some people might say it's still around, but I'm convinced it is dead. The pricing pressure on fund managers to deliver significant alpha at a lower price means that you've really got to consider a price of less than 1% for the market. And that may cause you some problems. You may be selling a fund elsewhere, a very similar strategy, at a much higher margin. And you then come into a different market with a lower margin, that may cause you problems back home. You will also have to price differently for different markets. So one market may not be happy with a 1% fee, whereas others will be happy with a 1% fee. So you've got to look at that and consider that. And again, that's part of your preparation. And when it comes down to the pitch itself, short and sweet. Many times, particularly going back some years, I've been out with institutional salespeople and they've had pages, 100 pages long on that pitch, and you've got a 45-minute time. Keep it short and sweet, 25, 30 pages. Review it, practice it, sit in a room with a colleague and go through it. Make sure it's relevant, because different pitches for different clients. A retail client will be very different from an institutional client, will be very different from a family office. You've got to consider whether or not you're positioning the fund as a direct competition to other funds, or you're a contrast, and this sort of barbell approach and how that would be. And then finally, the plumbing. The plumbing's critical, because ultimately you're building a fund which is going to be sitting in a shop window. But if people can't go in the shop and buy it, then everyone's just going to look at it and walk on by. So get the plumbing in place. That means platforms. Most funds now are purchased through platforms, and that could be anything from Aviva to Zurich, UBS, Morgan Stanley, Goldman's, whoever it may be. They've got to get engaged with those firms. Now, we do that already as part of our differentiation, is to make sure that we have all our contracts at the company level, not at the fund level. So it means you automatically go on there just with a side letter. It's the same with the pricing agencies and all the rating agencies. We work tirelessly with them, making sure that they are seeing that fund in the right way, with the right price and all the different documentation. So it's critical. Once you've got those 4 Ps in place, you're ready to go. One of the things that fund managers fail to do, once they've launched the fund, they sort of sit back and think, that's it. You've got to create noise. It's really, really important. You've got to own the space. And if a fund manager doesn't own the space, then someone else is going to take it. How you do that is up to you, but ultimately there's lots of different ways of doing it. You can employ a PR agency. Great, fantastic. Expensive, but it's an approach. But ultimately, you have the content. You need to drive that content. And the content comes from the fund manager, have investment writers writing articles, which you can place in the sort of editorial sense. Obviously, your website, social media, be it LinkedIn or Twitter. Now, Twitter obviously is read by the press on the whole. It's not read by many investors and wealth managers, but they are on there. LinkedIn is by far the best way of doing it. And you need to ensure that on a regular basis, once or twice a week, upload something to say onto LinkedIn. Once you've got that, keep it going. Keep repeating it, because eventually it will start to sink through with people. Create video content, podcasts. Go to people who can help provide it. Someone like Octo do great hot topic debates on a regular basis. Get on there. Get in front of investors. Get in front of the people who matter. People will follow that. And once you've got that content, you can use it on your own website. You can post it here, there, and everywhere. It's really, really important. But going back to my initial point, own that space. It's really important that people recognize you as the fund manager, as that asset class, as the people to go to for anything around that area. The business was founded in 2009, initially as a third-party marketing business. I have sadly 30 years experience in distribution. And in 2009, it was apparent post-financial crisis, there were a lot of fund managers out there looking for help in their distribution, be it either marketing or actually direct sales into wealth managers and financial advisors. And very quickly after we started, we attracted a number of fund managers, some who today are very, very successful, some maybe not so. But they all had a requirement, which is to get themselves in front of fund buyers. What became evident very quickly was that a number of these fund managers, unfortunately, didn't have the right structure. And they had Cayman or they had Gibraltar or closed-ended in a period when transparency and liquidity was critical. So we took it upon ourselves to launch the funds platform in Dublin, an area that I knew very, very well, having sat on a number of boards over the years. Common language, a common law, and common understanding. And I found it fantastic to develop over there the business. And more recently, we developed the management company, put boots on the ground, and that was something that the regulator was looking for. But also, I thought it was very important to show substance, not just to the regulator, which is very important, but also to clients. They wanted to see there was something there. And we will be continuing to develop that in the coming weeks and months and years, because we want to add more to what we already do. Currently, we are a UCITS management company, but we see lots of opportunities in the future to develop further. Our power is our distribution network. We've worked tirelessly over the last few years to develop a whole raft of different distributors across every time zone, from the UK to Europe, to South Asia, to South Africa, Middle East, and more recently into South America. These third-party marketers are what makes us different, because without those people, you don't have any distribution. You've got no engagement with the end investor. So we've worked to identify these people. We've got good strategic relationships with them. We understand them. They understand their market. If they don't understand what the pricing should be, or the platforms that need to be on, and all of the key distributors in those markets, then we'll look elsewhere. But we've identified, and we work with some great firms out there. Very recently in South America, we've identified a really good distributor down there, and we're really excited about how that's going to develop in the coming months and years. One of the key challenges for a fund manager is to work out where they should be promoting their products. So when we sit down with a fund manager, we try and identify the key geographical areas. So is it the Nordics? Is it the UK? And obviously the UK could be institutional retail. Should it be Switzerland? Could it be Spain? Wherever it may be. Identifying the channels, identifying the key people in those channels tells you where you should be going. And I think what fund managers fail often to do is they spread themselves so thin, they go across the whole world, when they should focus on just a few key markets and then build from that.